Our next session is Guilherme Barreto, who's the head of business development at Automaise. Guilherme is the head of business development. For the last 12 years, he's been building bridges between global organizations grappling with CX, with tech-based businesses solving CX challenges. He successfully led pivoting transformational projects alongside companies as Inditex, Procter Gamble, Nestlé, L'Oreal, Farfetch, Glovo, and Monese. At his previous company, Unbabel, he enabled businesses to streamline their CS footprints by using technology to serve customers across any language. Recently, he joined Automaise to help global enterprises leverage automation to take their customer experiences to the next level. So Guilherme, welcome. Thank you very much.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for the introduction. And I'd just like to start by saying, well, we've had some really smart people talking today, so I hope to keep you engaged in the process of sharing a slightly different point of view on the use of AI. So just please bear with me while I share my screen and let me know when you're able to see my slides.
Got it.
Perfect. Sorry, there's a bit of a delay on my side. Cool. All right, well, hello everyone. As Jeff mentioned, my name is Guilherme and I'm head of business development at Automaise. And today I'd like to share with you a slightly different point of view on why conversational AI is not what your business needs. Just for starters, Automaise is, we're a platform that combines conversational AI with intelligent process automation, deeply rooted in machine learning foundations. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is why conversational AI is important to any organization that plans to be around in 15 years' time, and why conversational AI alone is a small piece of a larger puzzle, but also why our vision as to what the businesses of tomorrow will look like. So let's start with the first point. Successful organizations are those that quickly adapt to the fast-changing world that we live in, and we're living in the tech-first world nowadays. If you think about it, in the last 30 years, computational processing power has increased by more than 100-fold. And the devices that we carry in our pockets are more powerful than the computers used in space missions ago. If you think about that, that's mind-blowing. Technology, it's kind of become an essential tool that enables us to make better use of our time. And most of us have used digital assistants in our lives at some stage. And we're aware of some of their most useful abilities, whether it's the ability to tap into a calendar and autonomously book a meeting, or just help you have a better day by improving your morning commute, or reminding you of the birthday of a loved one, or whether it's just helping you discover new sources of entertainment, or just even book a table at your favorite restaurant. From a technological standpoint, what the end user experiences is the conversational AI and engagement. But what enables the assistant to deliver value to the users is its ability to transform conversations into real actions. And though digital assistants are great, you may be asking yourself the question of how are they tied to the future of business? So I invite you to take a step back and reflect on how fast the world has changed. In the last 15 years, over half of Fortune 500 companies have disappeared. And whilst there's several reasons for companies to vanish from the radar, technology disruption is playing a significant part in driving this change. And you can just think about, Bed Bath & Beyond, Blockbuster, or Kodak, or other brands being victims of new players entering the market, fueled by rapid business transformation. Today, 7 of the 10 largest companies in the world are tech-based. And there's many of them that you do know, like Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, but others like you might have not heard before, like Spotify or Klarna. Tesla is a more obvious one. And these are companies whose market valuations are quickly surpassing those of long-established players. If you think about it, a lot of these did not exist just 20 years ago, which I think ultimately poses the question of what is at the root of these companies' success, and how is their operating model different to other businesses? Well, first, they were early to use the internet to access an extensive amount of consumers. They were early to gather huge amounts of data about their customers and their habits. But what currently sets them apart from other businesses is that they're able to swiftly transform data and business knowledge into memorable customer experiences. And they're doing so by leveraging their AI operations. An operational model that is built on AI ops is allowing them to deliver memorable customer experiences, treating every customer in a unique way in order to deliver an incredible amount of value. And so, this just keeps the customers coming back, and to do so at scale with an efficient operational model. And let me talk about a practical example of this. So, for example, YouTube, we've all heard about it. We've all used the platform before, most likely. Only 10 years ago, television was the main source of screen entertainment for the average American. We used to watch an average of 4 hours of TV a day, and only about half of that consuming media online. Today, TV is second to digital media, and the average person consumes most of their media on digital platforms. YouTube alone has 80% share of that pie. So that has allowed Google to scale YouTube from a money drainer to generating $15 billion in revenue, which is more than double of the runner-up. So if we think back to understanding why they succeeded in doing so, it's mostly because YouTube has become incredibly efficient at using machine learning and automated actions to know what you like to watch. And they're able to predict what you'll enjoy watching next. And that offers an experience which keeps you locked into the platform and just keeps you coming back for more. And naturally, obviously, it keeps the advertising dollars coming in. And thinking of another example that we're all familiar with, Amazon, for example, it's a great example of a business that's taking over the retail space. They frame their success with their obsession for the customer, and it's pretty easy to agree to that. But their entire business model, from prime deliveries to running and maintaining the core technologies behind their platform to the end user experience, relies on huge teams of programmers and data scientists that keep augmenting their machine learning and their AI capabilities. And there's plenty of examples out there, some of which you might have heard or not before, but they will likely disrupt yet another industry in the next 5 to 10 years. So at the beginning of the presentation, we mentioned that the success of organizations depends on more than conversational AI alone. And even though a great deal of business leaders have realized this and they're channeling resources in an attempt to catch up, most businesses still carry an enormous amount of AI debt. This means that operating models are built on outdated technology, and to catch up, businesses need to ramp up extensive teams of data scientists alongside huge computational resources to really empower their core business models and empower the function of AI operations. But one of the issues is that data scientists are highly specialized individuals, so a bit of a scarce resource. And there's not enough data scientists in the world to respond to the growing demand. And if we keep on going in this path, there still won't be. So this is where our vision starts converging with reality. We believe conversational AI drives the most value if you tie it with intelligent process automation and in a framework that enables the adoption of AI deep in the foundations of operating models, without depending on the ability to ramp up large data science or programming teams, and effectively allowing businesses to solve the most pressing bottlenecks in agile timeframes. Our vision is that tomorrow's successful businesses will be those who quickly empower their AI ops with the right tools, the right talent, and the right leadership capabilities, and update the operating models for the tech-first world that we live in. I'd just like to walk you through some examples of how companies across different industries are already applying this approach to bring their operational models from the old world into the new world. So let me give you an example of a gaming company with a problem that most businesses face. A customer support team that receives thousands of customer support queries every day, which typically ended up in a common inbox. Most tickets were uncategorized. Even though they had tried different approaches, whether manual or tech-based, they still really hadn't found a solution for the problem. And this meant that they were practically handling support on a first-in, first-out basis. which is kind of an issue for a company that's aiming to provide their paying customers with a premium experience. However, in the new world, as we call it, their inbox is automatically organized. Tickets are routed efficiently and in many cases acted upon without requiring human input. And that's a solution that's powered by conversational AI with machine learning foundations. So how exactly did they go about solving for this issue? So first they plugged the AI module into their smart inbox, into their CRM, which kind of just sat there for the first few weeks, learning how to tag and label the incoming requests. And by the end of the first month, their tickets were accurately tagged and routed and categorized into inboxes. So they were prioritized efficiently. The following step was to help them free up resources by automatically providing answers to the most straightforward interactions, and then suggesting responses to the more complex interactions. After a whole 4 weeks, they had fully automated over half of their support interactions. And then only another 4 weeks later, the smart inbox module had become so autonomous and so confident that it was able to automatically handle over 80% of the total volume in the inbox. And I think the best part is they freed up their operators to focus on those outlier support cases and really focus on relationship building, especially with those players that are sustaining their business model. To achieve this, I think one of the coolest things is to achieve this, that the AI that they plugged into their system, it only required a training of an hour a day in the first 4 weeks and an hour a week after that. So something that's very different to other approaches out there. So in the old world, this would have been difficult. This would have been almost impossible, especially because a lot of conventional solutions are, they're rule-based, they're limited in functions, and a lot of the times there's a very heavy maintenance effort required and associated to it. But the platform that we kind of built for these guys it's built to self-learn, and the support associates are only required to dedicate a very small fraction of their time in order to keep the solution relevant and knowledgeable, and to keep that efficiency rate in the levels that we saw. You could say it's continuously shaped by the business and not the other way around. Well, I'd like to walk you through another example, a completely different industry. So insurance, where the old world, if a customer wanted to, for example, submit a claim or change their policy details or buy a new policy, and you don't need to go too much back into time, right? Only a couple of years ago, it would have been like this. If a customer wanted to do any of this, he would have to reach out via phone or email or a complex web form. And in most cases, this would have to be handled manually by an operator in the back office. So in the new world, what these guys are doing is they are allowing customers to handle 85% of all digital interactions through conversational AI. So imagine, for example, you need to obtain authorization for a medical procedure and need to know whether your insurance will cover it. You can complete the entire process of submitting a claim through the chat assistant. And then let's say that you want to receive the reimbursement in your bank account, but you recently changed banks. No problem. Just ask the assistant to update your number and he'll do that for you because it's connected to the systems and able to do so. And then you might realize you need to upgrade your coverage and to get a more extensive product running for you. So that's not an issue. Just talk to the assistant, run a simulation, and you're able to upgrade your coverage on the spot, and everything through the assistant without having to interact with multiple platforms. So in the new world, this is powered by conversational AI, boosted by IPA capabilities. And again, as we said, 85% of the interactions that they're having with customers are handled completely and autonomously by this in an automated fashion. So in the end, this just means that customers are getting a better experience with the brand. But imagine, like in the old world, going back to the example of the old world, let's assume that this claim was submitted. And typically the approval process would be a manual task, requiring staff with medical or technical expertise would need to analyze the claim and understand whether or not the company would be willing to support that process. It was a bit of a slow and expensive procedure, and in the case of insurance companies, it's very often it costs over $40 and $50 per case that they have to approve and analyze. In the new world, it's different. It's a lot simpler. So once you submit the claim, it's processed through an automated decision support model, which is based on machine learning analysis of past approvals. And there's a 60% chance your request gets approved within seconds, which is a very, very powerful improvement to what used to be a slow and manual process. And for the insurance company, it's also an opportunity to reduce the handling costs by more than 80%. Another example, for example, in a different industry, let's look at the retail industry. It's very usual to have a customer that shops online and checks out, but he just forgets an item. In the old world, typically the customer would have to create another order and check out again, or most likely he would just give up and buy somewhere else, or postpone the purchasing decision. In the new world, however, the adding new products to orders through conversational AI is a reality. So customer reaches out to the assistant, he asks whether he's still in time to add one more item to the cart. And then the assistant automatically communicates with the order management system to check whether his last purchase has been processed or whether it can still be edited, and then walks the customer through the process and completes checkout for them. The customer gets what he wants and avoids paying extra shipping fees, which is an ideal experience for the customer. If you think about, for example, return and refund processes, they're one of the most complex and costly procedures to handle in customer care. And this is another example of a process that can be partially or fully automated, providing the company with the opportunity to reduce handling costs significantly. The solutions we saw here and the examples that we saw here, they were effective because conversational AI was used in conjunction with intelligent process automation rooted in machine learning. And it was used to solve complex business processes and integrated across multiple platforms, some of them cloud, some of them on-prem. The companies using our platform are integrating AI into their core operations through a visual platform with a low-code approach. Let me give you an example here of what it looks like to build an automation and use the technology. It doesn't require any extensive data science or programming talent, which is something that traditional solutions are less equipped to deliver. And it's fairly easy to go through the process of integrating automation and machine learning deep into the operating business. So, where does this leave us? We're circling back to the concept of AI debt. The operational models of the world's most valuable companies are integrating AI deep into their ecosystems to deliver efficiency and to deliver value at scale. And so today, deploying conversational AI is a must, but it isn't a sufficient enough strategic advantage. In order to really gain strategic advantage, organizations must adopt AI deep within their ecosystems and combine it with conversational AI. So, I invite you to question yourself whether, what would happen if tomorrow Google or Amazon or any of those other 7 companies decided to compete in your industry? Would you be prepared to stand up to their AI capabilities? Would you be able to provide the same level of customer experience as efficiently as Amazon does? And would you be able to do so, in the next 2 to 3 years? And I guess that, if it takes you a little bit more than 10 seconds to say yes, it might be that the business is not so prepared. So, question is, when you go back to the office on Monday, I encourage you to ask a question, think about the most pressing operational challenge that your company or your business or your team has to get solved, and whether that's customer support, operational management, whether that's e-commerce, and think of the most straightforward solution that you could implement with the resources that you currently have at hand. How long will it take to solve it? How many resources will you require? And how much value is that solution actually adding? And if your answer is more than 3 months, more than $50,000 worth of budget, or an ROI that's under 5x, it might be a sign that, the business is most likely accumulating more and more AI debt every day. Which poses the question, how much longer can we afford to keep on generating AI debt? How much longer? Thank you, guys. I hope you shared the vision here today, and don't hesitate. I'd love to answer your questions now. Don't hesitate to reach out, get in touch, and you have our contact details here. So please do reach out.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's good stuff. There's a lot to think about in there. You know, one of the things, and you and I have talked about this before, one of the things that we certainly get asked all the time, I think I shared with you a story, one of the largest banks in the world, the head of the innovation said to me, okay, Jeff, so who do we bring to the meeting? And I still find that so shocking. So who within the business, your opinion, your experience, when someone wants to implement a solution like this, a solution that ostensibly they don't have a lot of experience in, who do they bring to who do they put in the room to get it done? You know, real street level stuff, like who do they bring to the room?
Yeah.
In your opinion?
That's a good question. And I think, you know, typically there's two ways of approaching, you know, whether you're implementing AI and whichever department or whichever business unit you're looking at, there's always two ways to look at this. You have a bottoms up or a top down approach. Anyone that's gone through implementing a project which is bound to have a meaningful impact within the business is aware that unless there is senior leadership buy-in into implementation of a solution, into changing the way in which your business actually does business, then it's going to be very difficult to achieve success. And I guess it also is tied to whatever is your definition of success. You know, if you're just looking to implement something for the fun of it and for the sake of it, if you're just looking to say that you're using AI or you're using conversational AI, then great. Sure, your definition of success is probably a little bit more narrow than whether you're thinking about really integrating it into the business and delivering value to the end user, or just go about improving the way in which you do business and relaying that improvement onto the customer. So ultimately, it has to be a transversal effort. If you're going to be changing your operating model, you need to involve the people that are going to be affected by it. You need to involve the people that are most going to benefit of it. You need to be involved the people that might get hurt the most or affected the most by it. And whether that's your own team, your own business unit, you need to bring them in, but you also need to bring in, and above all, you need to bring in senior leadership, because unless senior leadership is bought into whatever it is that you want to do, it's going to be very hard to achieve meaningful results that are sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, I got a question from Salvador. He says, how would you differentiate a, quote, simple automation from a, quote, intelligent automation?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I guess it's also down to kind of the problem that you're trying to solve, right? I mean, interactions with humans by nature are complex, and the tasks, business processes by nature tend to be complex, right? Automating a simple task like a copy-paste function, or just sending data or sharing information from one platform or one document or one function to another, tends to be a fairly straightforward process. A complex automation, and that's something, and a simple automation is something that you can solve with, you know, a platform like an RPA platform. Those are great for repetitive tasks and very simple tasks. A complex automation is something which requires interacting with multiple systems, that requires extracting data from different business units, combining them, processing them, taking decisions, and handling and being able to handle the complexity of human interactions in between, right? When you're talking to, or conversational AI as the interface between human and the machine, if you want to call it, it needs to be able to handle all the intricacies of the complexity of human human communication, the capability to process context, for example, and then it needs to be able not only to extract that data and understand what the human intends to do, but then it needs to be able to, in order to deliver value, it really needs to be able to integrate with all the systems and all the platforms that are required in order to complete a specific task, right? And whether that's, for example, as we saw earlier on, for example, the case of simulating and purchasing or extending your insurance policy coverage, right? That's a process that until recently or until a few years ago, it needed to be done by humans because it's a complex process. You need to extract the user information, you need to identify their profile, you need to connect it across multiple different systems, you need to check and to take decisions of whether or not you're able to actually upgrade their policy, because it might be that their bank account is outdated, it might be that they're simply not complying with the rules, or it might be that there's a bit of a more complex requirement behind it. And today, with the state of the art of machine learning and this bridge between conversational AI and machine learning focused on enhancing decision making, for example, and interconnectivity with multiple systems and platforms, that's something we're in a state in which we are already able to automate complex decisions, complex processes, and to effectively optimize the process through AI alone, without, in many cases, requiring human intervention.
Cool. All right. Excellent. Good. Thank you. Thank you. It was great. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Jeff. And don't hesitate to reach out if you have any
Thank
questions.
You.